Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving straight into Marc Bates' fascinating commentary on Matthew chapter 14. We're going to see how this ancient text isn't just, a random collection of stories, but it's actually a highly structured blueprint. And its main goal? Revealing Jesus as the true shepherd of Israel. This chapter is a massive turning point. It takes us deep into the realities of first-century political oppression and covenantal expectation, showing us exactly how this totally cohesive revelation of Jesus' identity is built right against the chaotic backdrop of Roman occupation.
So, here's our roadmap for today. We'll look at the tyrant versus the true shepherd, examine the provision in the wilderness, explore mastering the cosmic chaos, unpack the power of contagious holiness, and finally, wrap up with fulfilling the divine promise. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. Tyrant versus the true shepherd, where we're contrasting earthly oppression with heavenly provision. To really grasp what's happening here, we have to look at the stark contrast set up right at the opening of the chapter. On one side, you've got Herod Antipas, the Roman client ruler of Galilee. His court is basically characterized by political terror and moral transgression. He outright violates explicit Mosaic law by marrying his brother's wife, and when John the Baptist actually calls him out on it, Herod gets trapped by his own imperial honor and social pressure. This all culminates in a pretty grim picture of earthly tyranny, a deadly Greco-Roman birthday banquet where John is beheaded. But then, look at the other side. Jesus, the true shepherd, is operating on a completely different paradigm. Instead of a banquet of execution driven by political fear, the true shepherd hosts a life-giving wilderness feast driven by deep, gut-wrenching compassion. It's a total clash of kingdoms.
Moving on to Section 2, Provision in the Wilderness, Echoes of the Exodus and Covenantal Mercy.
Following the martyrdom of his forerunner, John the Baptist, Jesus withdraws by boat. But he doesn't just go anywhere. The text says he withdraws to the Eremos. Now that's a Greek word meaning a desolate, secluded place or wilderness. And this is a massive linguistic breadcrumb. According to the commentary, it points directly back to Israel's wilderness wanderings in the Exodus. It perfectly sets the stage for everything that happens next. Jesus isn't just trying to find a quiet spot for a vacation. He's stepping into a historically loaded environment to do something profoundly significant.
So when the crowds follow him into this wilderness, the disciples' first instinct is just to send them away. But Jesus, acting as the ultimate true shepherd, issues this radical command. You give them something to eat. He's moved with compassion, which perfectly mirrors God's promise back in Ezekiel 34 to shepherd his own flock, and by providing bread in the wilderness, while he's perfectly echoing the Exodus 16 provision of manna. He even takes it a step further by escalating a famous miracle by the prophet Elisha in 2 Kings 4, taking a meager 5 loaves and 2 fish and feeding an absolute multitude. The text explicitly says he feeds 5,000 men, plus women and children. Bates points out that this specific way of numbering mirrors Semitic Exodus census language. It frames this crowd as the newly gathered assembly of Israel entering a second Exodus, led by a greater Moses.
And this brilliantly illustrates his overflowing, abundant provision. Just look at the fragments remaining. There were exactly 12 baskets left over. Now those 12 baskets, absolutely not a coincidence. They powerfully symbolize the nourishment and provision for the 12 tribes of Israel. It clearly demonstrates that the true shepherd is faithfully nourishing his covenant people first before any future Gentile mission even begins. It's just a highly organized, deliberate fulfillment of the promise plan.
Which brings us to Section 3, Mastering the Cosmic Chaos, the greater Moses on the mountain, and the raging sea.
Immediately after this profound wilderness banquet, Jesus sends his disciples ahead in a boat while he goes up the mountain to pray alone. But pretty quickly, the disciples are battered by a violent storm in the middle of the Sea of Galilee. Now, to understand what's really happening here, we have to view it through the lens of ancient Hebraic thought. The raging sea, or Tehom, represented unruly, cosmic, chaotic forces that were completely opposed to God's created order. So it begs the question, in that ancient mindset, who alone actually has the power to command these chaotic waters?
Well, the ancient scriptures point us directly to the book of Job to answer that. Job 9:8 says of God, "Who alone stretches out the heavens and tramples the waves of the sea." In the Hebrew scriptures, walking or treading upon these raging waves isn't some magic trick. It is the exclusive, uncreated prerogative of Yahweh alone.
So the crucial climax is reached when, during the absolute darkest part of the night, the fourth watch, which is sometime between 3 and 6 a.m., Jesus comes to his disciples. He is physically stepping right out onto that cosmic chaos. The terrified disciples cry out in absolute fear, thinking he's a phantom or a ghost.
But over the roaring wind, Jesus comforts them by saying, "Take courage, it is I, do not be afraid." Now this is huge. In the original Greek, he doesn't just casually say, "Hey guys, it's me." He says ego eimi, which is the explicit rendering of the sacred divine name, the I am from the burning bush. Jesus is actively unveiling his transcendent deity by using the absolute covenant name of God, all while doing what literally only God can do, trampling the waves. And it's right here that Peter asks to come out on the water, but of course, he falters when he tries to hold faith and fear simultaneously. Jesus saves him, and the very moment they step into the boat, the chaotic wind instantly dies. Recognizing exactly what just happened, the disciples fall down and worship him as the Son of God, fully acknowledging that the one standing in their boat exercises the cosmic prerogatives of Yahweh himself.
Let's dive into Section 4, the power of contagious holiness, kingdom restoration on the shores of Gennesaret.
After that stunning confession in the boat, they land on the northwestern shore, and the local population instantly recognizes him. They start bringing all the sick from the surrounding regions, and they beg him just to let them touch the kraspedon, or in Hebrew, the tzitzit. These were the ritual tassels on his outer garment, which were specifically commanded by the Torah to remind Israelites of covenantal holiness. By desperately reaching for these tassels, the people are acknowledging the true shepherd's perfect covenant obedience and the divine healing power residing within him.
This brings us to a literally mind-blowing concept called vector inversion. You see, under standard Levitical purity law, if a clean person came into physical contact with an illness or bodily discharge, it transmitted ritual impurity to them. The clean became unclean. But with Jesus, the true shepherd, that vector of contagion totally flips. Because he is the living tabernacle of God, his divine power flows outward. He doesn't contract their defilement. Instead, his uncreated holiness instantly neutralizes the impurity, disease, and death right at their very source. The pure makes the impure whole. It's just this incredible picture of infectious purity restoring broken humanity.
And finally, Section 5, fulfilling the divine promise and the organic unity of God's redemptive purpose.
So, let's synthesize all of this. Jesus isn't starting a detached, brand new religion that just throws out the Hebrew scriptures. Not at all. As you look at these canonical fulfillments, you see him stepping into history as the greater Moses and true Davidic king, fulfilling these deep, ancient promises layer by layer. Feeding the 5,000 perfectly mirrors the Exodus 16 manna provision. Walking on water fulfills Job 9:8 by trampling the waves. Calming the storm is the ultimate answer to Psalm 107. And the healing through his tassels points directly to the covenantal holiness mandated in Numbers 15. It is an absolute, seamless organic unity.
What you should really take away from this explainer is the profound lasting impact of this single chapter of text. It proves that the true shepherd prioritized his covenant people, providing for the 12 tribes of Israel first. Crucially, it shows God isn't abandoning the physical world, he is fully restoring it. We are talking about real barley loaves, real fish, real winds, and literal waves. In Jesus, the Emmanuel promise, God with us, is actively demonstrated in human history. As the true shepherd, he proves once and for all that he can conquer cosmic chaos and completely purge human disease.
To wrap up our explainer today, I want to leave you with this final thought. We've seen how perfectly the source text maps Jesus as the true shepherd who holds absolute sovereignty over the physical elements, over disease, and over the absolute deepest chaotic waters of creation. So if the true shepherd has conquered the ultimate cosmic chaos, what storms in your life are you still trying to calm on your own? Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. See you next time.